Hello everyone. Welcome to the Department of English, Netaji Nagar College. Today I will introduce you all to the poem My Last Duchess by Robert Browning. Robert Browning is one of the most significant poets in the Victorian era, along with Lord Alfred Tennyson. Browning started his career as a dramatist. English theatre was going through a long phase of non-creativity. In fact, after the Restoration Age, no major English drama was written, except some of the anti-sentimental comedies written by the late 18th century dramatists like Goldsmith and Sheridan. Browning wanted to bring life to English theatre. He wrote his first verse drama Pippa Passes that got published in 1841 as the first volume of his Bells and Pomegranates series. Browning did not want to be a poet in the romantic trend of form. He is said to be the founder of the literary form dramatic monologue. However, in reality, he only perfected it. First-person utterances by fictive characters predate the Victorian era in Shakespearean and other dramatic soliloquy, as well as in a long line of laments and declamations. The Victorian dramatic monologue departs from precedent insofar as it operates within a problematical epistemology and demands that readers negotiate a range of ambiguities. Does the poet agree with what the character is saying? Is the character sincere or self-interested? Does the auditor comprehend what the speaker is actually saying? Is the reader meant to take the utterance at face value, or is it ironized in keeping with the poet's desire to question how we know what we know and the social grounds on which utterances is predicted? Does even the speaker have command over the utterance and what it reveals? Robert Browning is chronologically a pre-modern who anticipates the 20th century delinking of the poet and the text. T.S. Eliot's diction of the objective correlative, or Roland Barthes' notion about the death of the author, that have questioned the traditionally assumed identification of the author and the text, have been foreshadowed by Browning's adoption of the persona or the mask. It is through the perspective of a specific character that Browning redefines his view of life and obliquely expresses his conjectures about it. The mode of monologue that he uses brings about such a dramatic interaction between the character and the supposed listener that the poet's subjective self is almost totally bypassed. Browning had described men and women as so many utterances of so many imaginary persons not mine. In this context, we recognize how compatible is his view of human character and his interest in human psychology with the monologic structure. Browning's approach to human character is based on the assumption that every individual possesses a unique, fundamental, innate nature that forms the core of his being. Yet he is also beset with conflicts and contradictions. His experiences may engender in him feelings of guilt or disillusionment, requiring a camouflage or evasion from the public eye. It is here that the role of the listener in a monologue is of vital importance. It reflects Browning's belief that the intelligent observer can penetrate through the masks of pretense, sophistication, or defensive arguments to glimpse at the core of the character's nature. Robert Browning's dramatic monologue, My Last Duchess, is a byproduct of his research for Sordello, his narrative poem. While researching for Sordello, Browning read about Alfonso II, the fifth Duke of Ferrara, who ruled from 1559 to 1597. The setting in this particular poem, My Last Duchess, is thus a palace in the Italian city-state of Ferrara during the time of Renaissance. Now, Ferrara is situated in northern Italy between Bologna and Padua on a branch of the Po River. The city was the seat of an important principality ruled by the House of Este from 1208 to 1598. The Este family constructed an imposing castle in Ferrara beginning in 1385 and over the years made Ferrara an important center of arts and learning. Two members of the family, Beatrice and Isabella, supported the work of painters like Leonardo da Vinci and Raphael. In Browning's poem, My Last Duchess, the Duke of Ferrara is modelled after Alfonso II, the fifth and the last Duke of the Principality, who ruled Ferrara from 1559 to 1597, but in 3 marriages fathered no heir to succeed him. The deceased Duchess in the poem was his first wife, Lucrezia di Medici, who was a daughter of Cosimo di Medici. Cosimo di Medici was the Duke of Florence from 1537 to 1574, and he was also the Grand Duke of Tuscany from 1569 to 1574. Lucrezia died at a mere age of 17 in the year 1561. In 1598, Ferrara became part of the Papal States. My Last Duchess is one of the finest dramatic monologues of Robert Browning. It is partly dramatic, partly narrative, partly lyrical and partly psychological. The poem begins with the Duke in his palace in October of 1564 in Ferrara, a city in northeast Italy on a branch of the Po River. He shows a portrait of his late wife who died in 1561 to a representative of the Count of Tyrol, an Austrian nobleman who has come because the Duke plans to marry the Count's daughter after the negotiation of a handsome dowry. As the Duke is speaking about the portrait, he dwells on his relationship with the late Countess, revealing himself wittingly or unwittingly as a domineering husband who regarded his beautiful wife as a mere object, a possession whose sole mission was to please him. As he speaks, his comments are often ambiguous and even hint that he may have murdered his wife, just a teenager at the time of her death. The Duke tells the Austrian emissary that he admires the portrait of the Duchess, but he was very unhappy with the woman when she was alive, as she devoted a lot of attention to trivialities and other men. In a way, he also tries to mean that she may have been having some affairs with her friends. The Duke seems very much fond of the portrait, and it is evident that he likes it not only for her pose, but also because the Duchess is under his full control as an image on the wall. She cannot protest or disobey his commands. She cannot do anything except smile out at the Duke, and to anyone else the Duke allows to view the portrait. It is about this time that the two viewers turn their back to the wall to descend, and the Duke points out another art object, a bronze art object showing Neptune taming a seahorse, a very symbolic one indeed. One may easily deduce that the Duke regarded himself as Neptune and the seahorse as the Duchess under his control. My Last Duchess first appeared in the year 1842 in Browning's dramatic lyrics. The poem is written in 28 rhyming couplets of iambic pentameter. These rhyming iambic pentameter lines use enjambment. It is interesting to note that the rhymes do not create a sense of closure when they come. Rather, they remain a subtle driving force behind the Duke's compulsive revelations. It is to be noted that the Duke in My Last Duchess is a wonderful performer. He creates hypothetical situations and often uses the force of his personality to make comments that are ambiguous. The fact that no one is allowed to draw the curtain definitely highlights the imperious nature of the Duke. So is the fact that those who are shown the picture do not dare to inquire about the look on the face of the Duchess. The glance, with its depth and passion, is deliberately kept vague to allow yet another range of possibilities. We cannot evade the obvious questions. What is it about the glance which immediately arrests a stranger's attention? Was it a look of pleasure, or was the Duchess somehow caught in a moment of unease? Browning invites the readers to delve deeper into it and find out the answers. The Duke deliberately utters the painter's name while drawing the envoy's attention to the portrait of the Duchess. He underlines the fact that such a blush on the Duchess' face can hardly be replicated if the painter is not as great as Fra Pandolf. However, the very next comment brings a dramatic twist when the Duke says casually that it was not the husband's presence but the painter's comment that brought such a blush on her face. Fra Pandolf's comment that the mantle covers too much of the lady's wrist brought her the blush, and according to the Duke, this questions the legitimacy of the lady's act. The Duke asserts that her lady was courteous and cheerful, and used to get easily flattered and impressed. However, she did not have the capability to discriminate between the original and the fake. Thus, she would equate the 900 years old prize given by the Duke with the insignificant gifts offered by others. This once again upholds the false pride of the Duke. The casual nature of the Duchess disgusted him so much that by his commands he stopped his smiles one day. Such a saying on the part of the Duke projects in a subtle way his dark, egoistic, and pretentious nature. His critical nature is even noted when he says that he will not refuse any dowry, as the Count will give him generously. Thus, before I close, I just want to summarize why My Last Duchess is one of the finest dramatic monologues. We note that the speaker in the poem is definitely not the poet. The audience is present all throughout, and their implicit presence is noted. We also note the epigrammatic and the intense style that pervades all through the poem. Last but not the least, it is very interesting to note that although My Last Duchess is not a full-fledged drama, yet it makes a poignant study of human psychology within a very short span. Thank you.